Happy New Year, everyone. And it's wonderful to see such a nice turnout for this WiDS Datathon event. This is the 5th year of the WiDS Datathon, so we're very excited about that. Next slide, please. And we have a great challenge lined up for this year. So we'll spend the next 45 minutes or so talking about all the different aspects. And then we'll also leave time at the end for questions and answers. So throughout the entire presentation, feel free to leave your questions in the chat area, and we'll queue those up and make sure to address them all at the very end. Next slide. So welcome to WiDS. And just wanted to share this overview with you in case some of you aren't that familiar with the Women in Data Science Global Initiative overall. We started WiDS in 2015. I'm one of the co-founders and co-directors. My name is Karen Mathis. And we started it with 3 key goals that haven't really changed since the start. First, to inspire women to join the field or to continue to advance in the fields of data science, machine learning, and AI. And then secondly, to educate everyone who comes to our events, which initially was just a conference, but then has spread into multiple programs throughout the year. So men, women, all genders welcome at all of our events throughout the year. And then finally, to support women in the field, whether they're just starting studies as an undergraduate or even in high school or well advanced into their careers, we want to find ways to support women and encourage more diversity in the field. And last year, 2021, even with all the challenges with COVID, we had a great year with tremendous participation, mainly online, of course, but over 100,000 people worldwide participated in various WiDS events. So all of you are part of a very large and growing community worldwide, which is wonderful. Next slide, please. So the WiDS Datathon, which we started in 2017, was something that we did to inspire more women to learn about predictive analytics in a fun and interesting way. And we wanted to do something different than the typical datathon or hackathon, so we could encourage more women to be involved. And so first, we always focus on a social impact challenge. One year it was predicting where the location was of palm oil plantations, which is an environmental issue causing deforestation with orangutans, for instance, losing their natural habitats. And then last year, some of you may have participated when we were predicting a particular type of diabetes that appears in people and may affect their treatments in intensive care units. So that's the first thing, the social impact challenge. Second is that we want to make sure that women feel like they're an integral part of every team. So at least 50% women on every team is one of our key ground rules. And then finally, we encourage people to collaborate, have fun, gather for datathon workshops, and make this more about learning together rather than just a hardcore competition. So next slide, please. So if you're a beginner out there and wondering if you belong, the answer is absolutely yes. Last year, we had a tremendous number of beginners. We heard great feedback from them, as well as those who were well-experienced Kagglers in the field. People said they learned new skills, they met other people, they found role models, and it was 80% female last year. So we hopefully will get to the same level of a mix of people in the competition this year. Okay, so next slide, please. It's my great pleasure to introduce the rest of the core team. Sharada and Weiwei have been working incredibly hard the last few months to get everything prepared for this datathon, and I'll turn it over to them in a second. And also Valerie Gorin has been an outstanding member with all the communications out to everyone. And feel free to reach out to all of us throughout the next few months. So we're eager to hear from you and support you in your journey on this datathon. So I will turn it over to Sharada now to share more details. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. As Karen said, my name is Sharda Kalanidhi. I'm a data scientist at Stanford Medical School. I've been involved in WiDS for 3 years now, and I've seen firsthand the phenomenal talent of data scientists from all over the world. This year, I'm co-chair of the Datathon with Wei Pan, and it's our pleasure to welcome you to the Datathon. And there's a lot that happens behind the scenes to bring this Datathon to you. And we'd like to begin by thanking our wonderful partners and collaborators who've helped us at every stage of the Datathon, from lining up the data set to preparing tutorials, supporting research pathways. Thank you so much for everything you've done, everything you do. Next slide, please. We'd also like to thank our global visionary sponsors for the tremendous support they've given us. Without their backing and vision, we wouldn't be here. Thank you very much for your generosity and your support. Next slide. So like Karen mentioned, every year we have a challenge that's focused on social impact. This year, we've decided to take on one of the most critical, multifaceted challenges facing humanity today. Something that the United Nations calls a global emergency beyond national borders. Yes, indeed, our theme this year is climate change. We're all well aware of the widespread climate-driven disruptive events such as floods and wildfires. And the devastation caused by these events has resulted in an awareness of the urgency of this issue. And people and governments have started working together in the direction of coordinated action. At WiDS, we believe that it will be important for future data scientists to gain familiarity with the mathematical and statistical models used to model climate data. And these are important skills that we will need in the future. So for this reason, we're going to focus on a very climate-focused challenge, prediction of building energy consumption. We also want to point out that this challenge will be appealing to both beginners and advanced folks. I mean, there is enough of a challenge in this problem in climate modeling in general. And if you're a beginner and you want to focus just on beginning with building models, that's fantastic. And if you're a researcher and you want to go deep into the research problem, that's fantastic too. We will talk about phase 2 as well. Bottom line, this is a great, rich problem that covers both ends of the spectrum. Next slide, please. So climate change is affected by energy policy and infrastructure. And we, in this challenge, we will address an important way to mitigate the effects of climate change, focusing specifically on energy and efficiency. Experts in this field have helped us understand that addressing climate change involves mitigation, that is mitigating greenhouse gas emissions. Mitigation of greenhouse gases requires substantial changes to electricity systems, transportation, building, industry, and land use. In this Datathon, you will analyze differences in building energy efficiency. You'll create models to predict building energy consumption. This is an important first step towards maximizing energy efficiency. Your data set will consist of variables that describe building characteristics, as well as climate and weather variables for the regions in which the buildings are located. And accurate predictions of energy consumption can help policymakers target retrofitting efforts to maximize energy reductions. This data set was created in collaboration with CCAI and Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory at Berkeley Labs, and we're really grateful for their support. Thank you. And I think now it's on to Wei to talk about how it works.
Hi, Sharda. Thank you so much for going over the Datathon, the data set this year. We'll run through a couple of ways to get started. So it's super easy to get started in this year's Datathon. As Karen said, it is open to beginners. And the first step is to make sure that you register with us. If you haven't yet completed the registration, please register with WiDS Worldwide, and then we will send you the direct link to Kaggle to begin the competition. You can create your Kaggle account and fill in your profile information, and Wei will show us how to do that briefly here, and form a team with collaborators. Once you form your team, you can download the data set and begin the challenge. We really encourage you to read through all the details, the FAQ, before you start the competition. As Karen mentioned, a big goal of the WiDS Datathon is to get many women involved worldwide. The competition is very approachable for data scientists of all age levels and expertise. And it's a really, really great opportunity to build your data science skills. The goal of the Datathon is to get women involved in data science. So for this, we do require that your teams be 50% female. This really allows that women's voices are heard throughout the Datathon and within this competition. This year, we're providing you with some various ways to form your teams. So you may join the private Facebook group or the Kaggle discussion boards or WiDS Datathon workshop to meet other fellow Datathon participants and work together to collaborate. We're really excited this year to host Datathon workshops all over the world, and many of them will be posted on our website as their details are available. There'll be around 40 to 50 workshops that you can attend either in person or online. And many workshops are working with speakers and mentors to really help guide you through the competition and support you in that team collaboration. We're also providing a very large range of resources and tutorials so that you'll have much assistance as you work through the data set and challenge. All of that will be accessed on the Kaggle website, and we will notify you throughout the competition as more resources are available to you. We'll walk through Kaggle with you and show you where to access those resources. We're really thankful for many of our partners and Kaggle experts for providing these resources this year. And then lastly, thank you to our partner Kaggle for providing the cash prizes. We do global leaderboard prizes for the top 3 winners, as well as many Datathon workshops will also be offering regional event prizes and other ways to award your participation in the Datathon. So there's many ways to be awarded for your participation. And the winners will be announced at the WiDS Worldwide Conference, which we'll share more information about later. Okay, I'm going to hand it off to Wei Wei, and she'll show us how to work through the Kaggle site. So
Valerie, if you want to stop sharing screen.
Yep. Go for it, Wei Wei.
Okay. Hey folks, so this is just a brief tour. I know a lot of y'all are asking questions in the chat. As beginners, how do you approach the Datathon, right? So the Datathon is a Kaggle competition. So if you're wondering how to navigate the mechanics of the WiDS Datathon, you can Google, how do I do a Kaggle competition? But in fact, we actually have some tutorials for you that tell you exactly how to download, upload, participate, form teams, etc. Right? But if you're wondering if there are additional resources, you can always Google how to participate in a Kaggle competition, because the WiDS Datathon is hosted on Kaggle. So it's just another Kaggle competition, right? Only we're not just another Kaggle competition, because perhaps unique to this particular Kaggle competition, the WiDS Datathon provides you with a lot of information and a lot of structure for you to get started. So we highly, highly recommend that you read the information on the Kaggle site very carefully, especially the rules section. So those of you who are asking questions in the Q&A are often asking about rules. Do I have to form teams? How big can my teams be? When can I merge teams, et cetera, right? And so all of those questions are in fact addressed in the Datathon rules. So if you go to the rules tab, you can read all of the rules and the restrictions about your eligibility, etc. And if you are like, well, I just want a quick overview, rules is like that's just too much information. We have frequently asked questions. We have a tab for frequently asked questions, and probably most common questions that folks might wonder about would be answered in the FAQ page, right? So overall, like the description that we have just gone over about the Datathon and, sort of the background and the motivation is described in the description page. And it also has an abstract of who can participate, and basically how the datathon will work, right? So this is an overview of all the information we presented to you today. If you want to look at the particulars, we have a tab for basically every single piece of information that you're going to need in order to participate in the datathon. For example, if you're wondering about how your solutions will be evaluated, we have an evaluation page that tells you exactly what metric that we're going to be evaluating your solutions based on and how that metric is computed. We even describe for you exactly how your solutions should be formatted when you submit them, right? So what does it mean to participate in the datathon? It means that you have to submit a solution. The solution has to be a specific file that is formatted in a very specific way. And not only do we describe for you what this file must look like, we also give you examples under the data tab. So I'll go there in a second. For example, Valerie was just telling you that for beginners, we provide a lot of scaffolding with tutorials and resources for advanced folks too, who are really interested in the kind of the background of climate change and the role of data science in climate change, and particularly in energy consumption predictions. We actually have selected under the guidance of our partners, a selection of papers that you might want to read that will really bring to life this problem that we're tackling in the datathon. And the tutorials are listed here. We're actually going to be expanding the section, so check back once in a while, frequently, maybe once a week, throughout the competition, as we will be adding more to this tutorial. So you see that we already have one that introduces you to the whole mechanics of how to participate in a Kaggle competition, a beginner's tutorial that goes over the data set and some ideas about what models you might build. There's going to be a tutorial targeting advanced folks that's going to be coming real soon. And all sorts of things are going to be added to that, right? And if you're generally interested in data science and using this as an opportunity to learn, we've also actually connected you to 3 completely free available online data science courses, so you can access the materials, including lecture videos, right? So that's pretty exciting. And of course, all of the information about the prizes, as well as our partners, are available on our Kaggle site as well. So the thing that I see most people asking about is about teams. How do I connect with people, right? So this is very important, right? Because working alone is not as fun, right? You don't get as far as working in a team. So how do you find teams to participate in this global competition? So we have for you 3 platforms. We provided 3 platforms for you to connect with other participants and to form your teams. So the first and the foremost is to join our WiDS Facebook group. It's a private group, so you do have to request to join. And once you have joined, you should mention in your application that you're a WiDS participant this year. And once you have joined, you can make posts, right, to search for teammates and to do team formation. You can also reply to our post. We have a master post in there that's about finding teammates. You can reply to that in order to find other folks, like-minded folks as well. Okay. Another platform is through the WiDS Kaggle Datathon Kaggle discussion board, right? So the discussion board has its own tab here. If you click on it, right, you see that it brings you to basically, it's like a online discussion forum, right? So you see all of the different topics people have posted about. Notice that somebody's already made a post about looking for a team, right? So you can connect with folks by commenting on this thread, right? And then identifying individuals that you're interested in collaborating with and sharing your contact information. So back to the overview tab and under the team formations tips and tools tab, once you've identified a team, right? So we actually also suggest 4 different virtual platforms for collaboration that allows you to do a lot of important things like chatting, video conferencing, file sharing, screen sharing, etc. Right? And of course, you can always reach out to us if you're struggling with finding a team or with the mechanics, and we'll try our best to answer all of your questions. And then so the next most important part that I want to discuss is the data, right? So if you go to the data tab on the Kaggle competition, here you actually have a very detailed breakdown of exactly what is in the data set, including what are all the variables, what do they mean? So again, read the Kaggle site really, really carefully, because probably all of the questions that you have will already be answered on one of these pages, right? So this describes what the data is, and you see that the data files are here for you to download. So you have two files. One is for you to train, right? So that is for you to study, to build your models on. The test is obviously for evaluation, right? So yeah, the test does not include the ground truth values of the quantity that you're supposed to predict. When you predict on the test set, you submit that as your solution. We compare it against the ground truth value, and that determines your standing as a team, right? And so if you're wondering about, last time I mentioned, when you submit a solution, it has to look a certain way. It can't just be formatted however you like. It has to have a very specific format. In fact, we describe it for you, and we also provide you with an example solution file. So if you download the solution file, here you can see a little preview of it. You see that it has to be formatted in a very specific way, right? Where the variables are ordered in a very specific format. And you should copy that format when you are preparing your own solutions for submission. Right. And then, of course, if you want to submit, I'm not running through all of the Kaggle logistics, because that is in the tutorial. And then, of course, you can also look at how to participate in Kaggle competitions. But since we're here, let me point out that if you want to submit a solution, what you can do is click on the Submit Predictions button, and then upload your solution file prepared as we have suggested you to prepare. And then that's it, right? You should be able to see then your name once you submit on the leaderboard, and it will say what your team is and your current standing, right? And how many entries do you have made? And then you can see other people and how well they have been doing. And sometimes, by the way, here's a pro tip. A lot of very community-minded folks who participate in the Datathon, they also make their notebooks public for you to see. So if you see that there's a notebook available, oftentimes you can click on it and check out what other people have done and how they have arrived at the answers that they did, which is a great way to learn. Right. So the Kaggle website is really rich with resources, and it's also actually a really great way to connect with other participants, to see what they're doing, to learn from each other. So we highly recommend that you use this. Okay, so that is a brief overview of the Kaggle site. Valerie, do you want to start sharing? Yeah, I already saw, while Valerie's pulling up the slides, I already saw that in the chat, someone is asking about the course 109A at Harvard, Introduction to Data Science. It's available to everyone. All of the, I'm not sure about the videos, but the link that I sent is the public webpage, and all of the resources should be available to everyone on the internet, right? You don't need to be a student at any place. Okay, so Valerie, next page. Yeah, so far we've been talking a lot about the Kaggle competition phase of the WiDS Datathon, and we just wanted to really briefly, remind you, for those of you who participated in the past, and to tell you, for those of you who are new to the WiDS Datathon, that actually the WiDS Datathon comes in two phases. Phase one is what we've been talking about. It's the Kaggle competition, where you go to Kaggle, you submit a solution. Phase two is really exciting because it's quite different. It's not about a very prescriptive kind of competition style. Phase two is really about broadening the focus to examine the impact of our theme, which is climate change, across multiple domains, not just focusing on one data set, and in fact, not focusing on one prediction task, but allowing participants to pursue something that is deeper, more creative, more like doing actual scientific research. So participants in phase two, if you so choose to participate in phase two following phase one, you can take deeper dives into one of the data sets that will provide from several sectors, from several data sets that span sectors, including healthcare, energy, and environmental protection, that are provided by our amazing partners. You will also actually receive structured mentorships from experts in these domains related to your choice of data set and task. So this is a really amazing opportunity to experience scientific research if you've never had the opportunity to experience that before. And so phase two of the Datathon will happen once phase one has concluded. And so therefore it will start March 8th and continue because we're doing research, right? Not just trying to accomplish a task. So it's actually going to continue for quite a long while, and it will end on June 30th next year. Oh, actually this year, never mind. Right, totally forgot. Okay, and we're gonna announce more details in the following months, so do keep an eye out for that. And so while we're at it, I see somebody is asking, do you need to qualify for phase 2? The only qualification for phase 2 is that you participate in phase 1 so that you have a common basis for understanding what it is that we are trying to accomplish here in terms of our theme of climate change and impact, right? So you just need to participate in phase 1 in order to qualify for phase 2. Cool, next slide. Yeah, and so if you're excited about what we've been talking about with the Datathon this year, especially this really timely and important theme, which is climate change, and you want to hear more about what actual scientists are doing with data science that's related to mitigating the impact of climate change, then please join us for our WiDS Datathon webinar that's going to be happening on January 28th, later this month, in which we're inviting many of the partners, many folks, domain experts from our partner organizations who will come together in a panel and be talking about really this big theme of climate change, how it's a multifaceted problem, what does data science have to do with this problem, how can data science help, and how can you, as a person who is interested in data science, participate in this new and emergent exciting field of data science. So this is going to be a really, really exciting panel, and I hope that you will all join us. Cool. Next slide. And then I think this is you, Valerie.
Sure. Yeah. Additionally, we mentioned that the Datathon winners will be announced at WiDS Worldwide on March 7th. We're really looking forward to the annual conference and also featuring an energy panel at the conference this year. So online registration will open for WiDS Worldwide next week, and you'll be notified over email. And so we very much encourage you to sign up for that as well, to attend the event online. Next, we'll just review a brief timeline. So to see where we're at. Today is the welcome event. And as Weiwei mentioned, the next event will be on January 28th. And I'll put the link in the chat for you to sign up for that webinar. And then the phase 1 competition on Kaggle closes on February 26th. So that's a really important date to remember to get all your submissions in by then. The winners will be announced at the WiDS Worldwide Conference on March 7th. And then directly after that, we'll open up phase 2, which will extend throughout the end of June. And then those winners will be announced at the end of in August. And additionally, WiDS Datathon workshops will also take place to support you all throughout phase 1 of the competition and added to our website as those are available to attend. So at this time, we encourage you to put additional questions in the chat. And Sharda, if you'd like to help moderate or read out the questions, we are here to answer any questions that you have for us. Let's see what we have so far. Jalen asked a good question. In the leaderboard, the lowest score is ranked as the top #1. Is the lowest score the winner? Weiwei, would you like?
Yes. Yes. So if by score you mean the metric by which we're evaluating you, then yes, because the metric that we're using is essentially measuring the error of your prediction, right? So you want the error to be as low as possible, right? And the leaderboard, by the way, also tells you, if you're confused about the score part, it also gives you a ranking. It will tell you number 1, 2, 3, 4. So number 1 is the winning team right now, right? So by the way, in case you're new to Kaggle, note that, and this is like a pro tip that most people get confused by. So the test data set, right? So the test set that you're supposed to predict on is actually going to be split into 2 parts. So that the leaderboard during the competition, i.e. up until February 26th, that position, the leaderboard position, is determined only based on 50% of the test data, right? And then when the competition closes, the final standing is going to be evaluated on a 50% that you have not seen before, right? Which means that the final standing can change. So if you're curious about this, a lot of people are like, hey, wait, that's not fair. That's weird. Why would you do that? The reason is because we don't want you to over specialize your solutions to this very specific 50% of the test data, right? Because then it'll be too easy. I'll just keep submitting solutions until I'll get 100% on this specific set of buildings, right? We don't want that. We want you to build general solutions. So just as a note, right? So the standings on the leaderboard right now may change once the competition is over and we do the final round of evaluations, right? So you want to build solutions that are as general as possible and not over specialized to whatever is being evaluated on the current leaderboard.
I think that's about it. There's a question about, is the WiDS conference free for online participants?
Valerie?
Sure. The WiDS conference will have a very minimal charge for online participants. And it will also be streamed on live stream. So a good portion of the conference will also be accessed for free on live stream. I'll post a link in the chat to find out more about the WiDS Worldwide Conference as well.
Also, if I can add to that, the first 5,000 students who sign up can do so for free. And as Valerie mentioned, the others can access the online virtual platform, which includes a career expo, networking, some workshops, and speaker interviews. All of those are available at a low cost. On the live stream, that will be just the broadcast of the talks at WiDS Worldwide at Stanford only. So only that portion. So be on the lookout for the registration for the conference next week on January 21st, or January 11th. Next week is when we're going to open registration.
There's another question here about, can we use additional data? And do you want, Wei, do you want me to take that, or do you want me to take it?
Yeah, sure. You certainly can. If you're able to make it work. So for many privacy reasons, right, because buildings are where people live, we have done our best to anonymize these buildings. So we in such a way that you know, it will not be possible for you to reverse engineer, you know, where the buildings are, pinpoint in an exact way. So if you have some way of adjoining extra information to your data set that you think is sensible, then of course you're welcome to do it. And that's the case for, I think, most Kaggle competitions, right? But in this case, we're not providing you with, just as a note, we're not providing you with that information in order to anonymize this data set. So that might be difficult for you to do.
Another thing to mention is that there is also a phase 2 where if you want to go really deep and add a lot more variables and do research, you're certainly free to do that. And that's also part of the reason we encourage people to do research, you know, and that's for advanced researchers. So it's kind of, we address both ends of the spectrum. So that's also something we'd recommend you consider.
Exactly. Yeah. As Sherida says, in phase 2, like phase 1 is a Kaggle competition. So in many ways, it's very formatted specifically. In phase 2, you have much more creative freedom. Yeah, exactly. If you want to look at different data sets together jointly to see if you can borrow statistical power, absolutely. That's exactly something that would be really appropriate for phase 2.
Right, and we don't want your statistical exploration to be limited by just one problem, which is the phase 1 problem. And we recognize this is a vast field, and you know, your research interests might take you different places. So we encourage that. In phase 2, are there any other questions? It doesn't look like.
Sherida, do you want to address the question about, is the data set clean? Because I know you spent many months cleaning up the data.
Yes, the data set is clean. I mean, we have gone through several versions of sort of cleaning it, making sure that it reflects exactly the regional area that the buildings are located in, and the climate data reflects that. That's not a trivial task, but we sort of combine those two data sets. So you will have very rich data set to explore. It went through multiple levels of cleaning and joining to get you to this point. Yeah.
Though I would note that, in every year of the WiDS Datathon, we do a lot, especially because we want to encourage beginners to participate, to clean and make the data set really, really nice for you guys. But on the other hand, learning how to deal with certain eccentricities of the data, such as missingness and things like that, is an important data science skill. So expect eccentricities in a way that's pedagogical, as in like there's nothing in there that is truly difficult, but there are some pedagogical obstacles that we do expect participants to have to overcome.
And they're great areas for you to research, right?
Yes.
I mean, you can write a paper about some of these questions and how to actually extrapolate. I mean, you will notice as you work on the data set, there are different issues that come up. And then we definitely encourage you to go deeper into them.
There's a question here about how much time one can think about devoting or blocking out for phase 1 of the datathon, and it varies greatly. Any recommendations, Weiwei or Sharada, about that?
Maybe we can break it down into, are you a beginner? Are you familiar with Kaggle, right? So let's say that, you are not familiar with Kaggle and you are learning about data science to begin with, right? In which case I highly recommend, as both Sharada and Valerie have mentioned, to attend one of the Datathon workshops. For example, I host one for Cambridge, Massachusetts. If you go to a workshop and you're an absolute beginner, that is really the perfect place to get some structured mentorship and some guidance through how to participate. And through these workshops, you often get a lot of starter code, and you also get a team to work with. And so that'll just abbreviate a lot of the times that, you have to spend figuring out how Kaggle works and how the Datathon works, right? Now, if you have participated in some Datathons before, and the bare minimum logistics of Kaggle, and you can build a model, in which case I think that really it depends on if you want to win, right? So I think what are we capping it at? What is it, 5 or 14? I don't remember how many submissions per day, but if you wanted to submit 5 solutions per day, you can absolutely do that, right? If you wanted to spend 4 hours each weekend from now until the competition closes, each weekend devoting to improving your solutions, I think that's actually a very good approach too. So I think really it depends on what you're trying to get out of the Datathon. If you're trying to win, then yeah, maybe if you're a full-time working person or full-time student, then spend some time over the weekend, each weekend, trying to improve your solution, right? 3 or 4 hours. And if you're someone who's really using this as an opportunity to learn about data science, then I highly recommend joining one of the workshops or even multiple workshops, right? And then getting just lots of structured mentorship.
Right, and you can view this as a sort of an introduction to this field. So, I mean, once you get started, I mean, you realize there's a big ocean out there. I mean, and wherever your interests take you, you can go in that direction. You can learn more, whether it's different modeling approaches. I mean, there's a lot of resources on a lot of tutorials, and I recommend you look at those tutorials, see what's interesting to you, and you can really go deep into one particular approach or one particular type of statistics. It's really an introduction. Doors are wide open. You can go in any direction you want to, and however much time you can spend, that's good, because you will grow with that effort that you put in.
Dina, I noticed that you raised your hand. Would you like to answer your question, would you like to ask your question live or type it in? I'm granting you permission to ask your question if you would like to place your question out.
Dina, I think you're muted, just so you know.
Oh yeah, she's muted.
And hi, Dina, it's great to have you on the call today.
Yeah, maybe while Dina is figuring out the situation there, Jalen is asking, does the problem already have an answer? Is your efforts going to help solving the actual problem? So this is not a problem without an answer, because the way that we are evaluating your solution is we're comparing your predicted energy consumption with the actual energy consumption. So for these buildings in the test set, we know the actual energy consumption because they happened in the previous years and we went and measured it, right? So we have the actual energy consumption, you're predicting energy consumption, and we're measuring the error. So for these buildings, we know that. But is this effort meaningful? Even though you know the energy consumption, it is, right? I mean, the idea is that if you could learn to predict on data that you already see and you to predict well, then this model might be really useful for predicting into the future, forecasting into the future for whose energy consumption, for these buildings' energy consumption, you don't know, right? So like any model that you build could absolutely be used for future forecasting in a situation where we don't know the answer. But it is important that we evaluate our models on years that we have the answer, so we know how wrong we are, basically, right?
I think there's a question from Sabrina. How different are the beginner and the experienced tracks, and could you provide more clarity on how we can decide the most appropriate track for our skill level?
Yeah, so there are no tracks, I would say. Like like you don't select a track. It's just that, for example, I recently started learning how to ski cross country, right? It's the same track. Everyone goes on the same little thing, right? If you're a beginner, you just go a bit slower. and if you're advanced, you just whiz on by, right? So that's the idea. So there are no prescribed tracks. It's the same data set everyone works with. I would say that as a beginner, I often, prioritize things differently, right? If I'm learning something, I prioritize what I get out of it, right? I don't prioritize trying to win. And really, the competition, we know it's called a competition, but it's to encourage you to learn, to improve upon your own skills. It's not to win, to be competitive with each other, right? So in fact, I would say beginner or not, everyone should prioritize getting something new out of their experience by participating in the competition. So there's something for everyone here.
Yeah, I think that's the important point, is that we address both ends of the spectrum, the beginners and the advanced. You can take from it whatever you wish, and we're here to support you. And we have resources for at every level, at the beginner level and at the advanced level, researcher level. We support the whole spectrum. So we meet you where you are and we help you grow. Is it okay to use AutoML libraries?
Sure. If you can use, honestly, whatever you wish. So I think, again, it's about what you're trying to get out of it, right? So a lot of folks are, if you're interested in using a lot of these platforms, that allows you to build very fancy models with a couple of clicks, and that's what you want to use this opportunity to learn, those platforms, great, do that. And so for some folks, they want to learn how to program, right? So maybe they want to build things from scratch. And if that's what you want to use this opportunity to do, great, do that. Again, it's a competition, true, but really the spirit is about learning and growing. So yeah, exactly. So set your own goals, do whatever you want.
Yeah, we're not stopping you. We just want the results.
Way about the Cambridge Datathon workshop, when that would be held.
Oh, it will be in February. We have not set a final date, but so as Valerie was pointing out, you can always go to the workshop page that's linked from the main WiDS website, and it will be refreshed, almost every other day, depending on when we're getting more information, right? So all of the workshops will be posted on there with their dates and their links. So the second we know information about a workshop, you also know, and you can click on there and you can go register.
Can you explain how to make the team if I already know who I want to be on a team with and everyone's already registered?
Great. If you're already registered on Kaggle, right, then you can form a team already by clicking one of the buttons in the team formation. And so that's addressed in our, i.e. do it through Kaggle, right? So there is literally a button that you can press that will help you form the team. When you press it, you can add users that have been registered on Kaggle to your team, right? And then if you do that, then you can submit solutions as a team to the Datathon. We have a video from one of our really helpful folks who are who participate, who's a Kaggle master. Actually, she's a really fantastic helper for the Datathon community, and she's made a video explaining all of these mechanics. You can also Google team formation Kaggle competition. It's just a very simple mechanics through the Kaggle website.
Here's a great question about, are the Datathon workshops online or in person? And actually, it'll be a bit of both this year, we know. And so we'll try to specify that on the website when we find out who's organizing what. If you can't find anything near Arizona, one idea would be just to set up something yourself. You're welcome to do that. And people like Usha, who Wei just mentioned, who's a Kaggle Grandmaster, she's already expressed kindly that she can help with such workshops. You know, she can be online walking through some of the details. And so there's a lots of way to set up your own workshop in a very easy fashion.
I'm not sure if we answered this one yet. How different are the beginner and experienced tracks? And could you provide more clarity on how we can decide the most appropriate track for our skill level?
Oh, I think we answered that one.
We just discussed that. We just
that there are no tracks.
There are no tracks, yeah.
Yeah.
Go as far as you want.
Is there a deadline for forming a team? Yes. So again, if you go to check, by the way, the Kaggle pages a lot, right? Because there's a lot of information there, and I know it's very overwhelming, but definitely check the timeline a lot, because that's something that I always mess up on. So if you go to Kaggle and click on the timeline, it will tell you team merger and formation is the 23rd. Okay, so even though the competition doesn't end until the 26th, you have to determine your team by the 23rd. So if you are a little bit late and you're like, oh, on the 24th, this is my team, it's going to be too late, right? So that's the deadline for team merger.
There's a question about, is the programming language fixed? Python is recommended, right? Can we use others too? I can take that. No,
Yep.
there is no recommended language. In my tutorial, I refer to Python and R.
Yep.
So you can use whatever language or some other packages, and some other language that you have and packages that you have. We don't prescribe anything. We give you recommendations. In the tutorial, we give you snippets of code in Python and R. But you're free to use whatever language you wish to get the results that you compute.
Yeah.
Yes.
In fact, that's the submission of the solution. We don't really see your code. I mean, if you want to be community minded, then do as I was demonstrating some other folks have done, right? Not only do they publish their solution, they publish their code. Not only do they submit their solution, they publish their notebook, which is really wonderful. But you're not required to. You're not required to create a notebook. Honestly, if you're like, oh, I just want to try this in Excel, you can certainly do that. The only thing that is required is that you submit the solution in a very specific format so the Kaggle knows how to parse it, basically.
And score it.
Yeah.
Will there be another event similar to this in pre-phase 2? Yes, I think we will have a phase 2 event where we'll talk about the entire process and our mentorship program. We'll describe our mentors. We'll talk about kind of the deadline. We'll talk about the structure program and the various phases of the program. Yes, for sure, we will have that as well, just like this program.
In fact, we're going to be releasing more and more information about phase 2 as phase 1 is wrapping up and progressing. And we're just really excited, and we're hoping that all of you guys who are participating in phase 1 will consider phase 2.
Absolutely. You'll really enjoy it. And we were amazed by the submissions last year. It was really phenomenal. Would you say the Datathon is appropriate good to meet
folks to continue? Possibly looking to grow yeah, sure. I mean, I think that well, I can tell you my experience locally with organizing the Cambridge Datathon workshop as well, is that it's often a really great opportunity to kind of like grow it into a networking sort of system of events, not even just one, right? So you can build a year-round sort of theme around WiDS, around this datathon, if you like, especially because there is a phase 1 and phase 2, and it goes all the way until July, right? So if you want to use that as the backbone of, building on top of more sort of networking events for your local region, I think that would be a really cool idea.
Welcome. Are teams for phase 1
yeah.
and phase 2 the same?
Can we switch teams between phase 1 and phase 2? I don't think there's any rules about that right now in the language. Right. So no, yeah.
Yeah, you can do that. I mean, there's phase 2 is more of a structure, like a research program. They're two different intentions. So if you can do phase 2 by yourself as well. I mean,
that's true. Your team may not all want to go to phase 2. You and some other team member might be the only one. So there will be no rules about keeping the same team. Right. The only thing that qualifies an individual is that you have to have been a participant in phase 1.
That's right. Yeah. I think that's about it. I don't see any more questions.
Okay, great. So again, let me remind folks that please, I know you're interested in teams, so join the Facebook group for WiDS, be active on Kaggle. These are all really great places to meet folks and to connect and then to do team formation. And Karen is going to end with some closing remarks with some reminders about what's coming up.
Yes, and also I'd just like to add, Tanya put a lovely note here trying to form teams and meet one another, and she provided her email, but I think you just sent it to the host and panelists. If you can resend, Tanya, to everyone. Oh, great, you just did. Thank you. And your email too, then everyone can reach out to you directly, and thanks for that effort. So wonderful. Well, this is just the kickoff, and we look forward to speaking with you again, having you join the webinar and other events throughout the next 2 months for this. And so definitely sign up to take the challenge, join the webinar, attend a workshop. Like we said, there'll be many more workshops being posted around the world. So I think we have over 40 now, and that number is growing. And then hopefully we'll see you all in person or online on March 7th for the WiDS conference. So definitely earmark that date, and it should be really a great conference this year with some amazing speakers from around the world. So thanks everyone for coming.